What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Stebilevich. This is the first video on my channel ever, and most people probably would have made an introduction video talking about their story, talking about their journey. Not that that isn't relevant, but I didn't really think it would be relevant for any of you. So I wanted to provide value immediately right off the bat. That is why, as you can see on the title of the video, this has absolutely nothing to do with me and who I am and what I'm doing, accomplishing, etc. Just to give you background on myself so you at least have some belief that I actually know what I'm talking about. I currently run a marketing agency called CH Growth Partner. We do about $22,000 a month in revenue. And basically, this entire channel is just going to be me showing you teachings from my journey, my experience, just documenting the process overall. But while I go ahead and do that, I'm also going to be making sure that I can provide you as much value as I possibly can, and hopefully more throughout the years as I grow and as the company grows and as I learn more, whether they're good lessons, bad lessons, etc. So, jumping right into it, though, this is the video today: 5 ways that you can immediately increase your show up rate. The reason the show up rate matters is because it's the metric that comes down to the core of the sales process, and on top of that, it actually is determined by basically what is the most important person in the process of the sales process, which is the appointment setter. If your appointment setter sucks, your show up rate is going to suck. If they're good, the show up rate is going to be good. If they're bad, the show up rate will be bad. If the setter is amazing, the show up rate will be amazing. It's basically all correlated. Now, the setter is the most important person in the entire sales process also because they are the person that's going to have you the first point of contact with that prospect. Okay. Now, when a prospect enters your sales funnel, they don't remember all the little things. They don't remember the reminder sequences. They don't remember your website. They remember who you talk to or who they talk to. They remember the most important, the most significant parts throughout that entire process. So what they're going to remember is the setting call, the sales call, the onboarding call. Okay, so making sure they don't have buyer's remorse after they pay you, that's a whole nother ball game. I'm not going to talk about that today. But making sure that they are enjoying everything up until that point, that is what I'm going to talk about today. The other reason the show up rate is so important, and the last thing I'll mention about it before I actually dive into the 5 things here, is that if you double your show up rate, you double your close rate. If you're a good business owner, you know that. Now, again, metrics are all aligned. So 5 ways that you can immediately increase your show up rate. The first way is through personalized videos and selfie videos. So just to give you a little bit of insight into our sales process, it's not anymore what it's not this anymore. But what we used to do is we would make personalized demo decks for every single potential customer. Okay. Now, before they got on that call, we would send them a video of a screen recording just like this 24 hours before via an email. And we would say to them basically in the email, hey, I'm excited to talk to you tomorrow. Excited to see how we can grow your business. This video explains what we're going to be covering. Here's the outline of the deck. I'll go into more detail tomorrow, but just to let you know, we put a few hours into prepping this for you. We care about the growth, and we want to show you immediately right off the bat before you even pay us that we're going to put as much effort into your business before you work with us as much as we will when you work with us. So that's the whole point of doing that. Now, if you're not doing a personalized deck, which I would not recommend because it takes way too much time out of your day, your sales team's days, and it's just overall, it was a very lengthy process that I would not recommend to anyone right now. The other thing that you should do is selfie videos. Okay, so it's very, very simple. Grab your phone, okay, and 24 hours before that meeting with the prospect, you take a selfie video and you say, hey, John, Steve here. Really looking forward to growing your business. I took a few notes down based on the call that you had with Jack over the phone yesterday. If you have any questions for me before we jump on tomorrow, please let me know. But I am excited to dive into these notes. I'll let you know what I came up with, and then we'll come up with a game plan for your business. Something as simple as that can literally work so well and make sure the show up rate's almost double, to be honest. Another very important thing about that, if you're going to do that, use your cell phone. The reason is because if you're going to use it on a go high level number or some random number that's bought from any software, it's going to show up in green. Okay. When it shows up in green, people immediately think bot, they think scammer, they think automated, they think AI, robotic, etc. Basically, they get the impression that you don't actually care about them. So make sure you use your cell phone. I would have all your salesmen do that because that way it'll come up as blue. They know it's a real number. There's softwares out there too that you can like manipulate that with. So I don't even know any of them. I don't do that. We just use the cell phone. If you have an Android, no idea what you're doing still. It's the 21st century. But if you have an iPhone, I would definitely do that because the text will show up in blue. Number two, the second way that you can immediately increase your show up rate is through reminder sequences. Now, when it comes to reminder sequences, the worst possible ways that you can set these up are basically all automated, and where every single one that comes into the client or the prospective client before the call says, oh, hey, just a reminder, your meeting is in 24 hours. Just a reminder, your meeting is in 1 hour. That is so stupid. I can go into a whole nother video on specifically what a good reminder sequence is. But when you are doing a reminder sequence, you're going to have it automated. I mean, everyone's reminder sequence is automated. What you want to do is you want to have a mix of social proof. You want to have a mix of value content that you can send to them, stuff like this video, any white papers you might have written, case studies you have. You want to send them stuff that they're going to actually get value with. And while the reminder sequences are automated, so you're going to have default assets that are sent to them no matter what. Another big thing you can do is you can have your sales team or your closer who's scheduled for that call listen to the setting call with the prospect. And let's say on that setting call, the prospect mentioned that his show rate sucked. Well, send this over, this video over, right? Have the closer manually do that and outside of the automations that they're going to get. Basically, it's nurturing, it's indoctrination, and it's going to get people more familiar with your company, especially depending on where the lead came from. Like, it doesn't really matter nowadays. I mean, it does matter. It makes a difference. But at the end of the day, whether a lead came from cold calling, email, ads, they don't know your company. Unless they have been seeing your content for years, they are not fully nurtured. And if you don't do the best that you can to nurture them before they get on that closing call, then it's like they're going to get on the call. You're going to be trying to sell them a high ticket service, but they don't know anything about your company. So if you have social proof, like absolutely leverage that. It's like a game changer. If you don't, I would just create content online like this, use value assets, and then I would just send them that basically in the automations. I will go into more detail on another video of that, but everyone knows what reminder sequences are. The third way you can immediately increase your show up rate is having the setter confirm that they received the appointment over the phone immediately after booking, right? Now, let's assume that your setter doesn't suck and that the show up rate's actually good because of the setter. Well, in order to make the show up rate great, what you should do and what the setter should be doing is immediately after they say at the end of the call, hey, does 2 p.m. tomorrow work? They should be saying on that call, before we hang up, can you just confirm with me that you received the invite to that meeting in your email inbox and can you accept it? Okay. There's two reasons you're doing that. Number one is you are engraving in the prospect's head the time and day that they're going to meet with the closer. Okay. You need them to have that locked in. They cannot just have that in the back of their mind subconsciously. They have a 4-year-old cognitive brain because they're on their phone scrolling while you're on the setting call. You need to make sure that they know that that time is confirmed and they have that engraved in their head. I repeat it when I was setting. I would say 2 p.m. tomorrow. If that is when we scheduled the call, I would say that 4 times in the last 2 minutes of the setting call because I want to, again, engrave it into their head. The second reason you're doing it is a technical reason. It's because Google Calendar had a update that really screwed over everyone a couple months ago, where basically if the prospect does not accept the invite in their email when they get it sent, it will not show up on their calendar. And it will, if they even does, it will show up as something like cautious or spam. And then they're not going to want to join anything where the link might be a phishing link, right? So you want to make sure that the setter is one confirming that they actually received it, engraving that time in their head, and then also making sure that they accepted the invite so it actually shows up on their calendar. The fourth way that you can immediately increase your show up rate is having the setter confirm that they'll be at the appointment on the day of. Okay. Now, either way, you're going to have sequences going off to people that are basically going to be saying, hey, your call is in an hour, it's in 2 hours, right? Whatever your time lapse is for that. You also want to make sure that the setter calls the lead. Most likely what I would recommend is 2 hours before, calls the lead and then says, hey, just making sure we're still good to go for 2 p.m. with John, our closer, who's going to close you. That is what now you don't actually have them say that, but you get the point. You want them to make sure that they get verbal confirmation on the phone that day up. And you know what else? If you call them and they don't answer that, they're probably going to be a no-show, to be honest. So it's also not a bad idea to then cancel that call, because then what you're doing now is you're giving another slot opening to a closer for yet another sales call for someone that might show up and who's actually more serious about buying. So definitely, that is a very strict standard operating procedure that we have. Is like, if they are booked in for a call at 12, we are calling them at 10 p.m. And then they're getting a text sent to them at 11. I'm sorry, if they have I got the times mixed up. If they have a call booked for 12 p.m., the setter is calling them at 10 a.m. to confirm it. And then they're getting a text message at 11 a.m. confirming that they are going to be having their call in an hour. Now, it doesn't really matter time lapse, 1 hour, 2 hours, but no matter which way you do it, I would just switch those two things around. So either have the setter call them the day of 2 hours before, and then an hour before they get a text, or 2 hours before they get a text, and then an hour before they get the setter calling them. So vice versa, doesn't really matter. The point is that you want to make sure that they get verbal confirmation. The setter gets verbal confirmation from that prospect that they're actually going to be on that call. And the fifth and final way that you can immediately increase your show up rate is honestly just qualifying heavier. At the end of the day, when you qualify heavier, obviously your lead volume is going to be less, and so is, or not so is, your cost per lead then is also going to go up. But it doesn't really matter, because the only metric that matters at the end of the day is your cost per acquisition. Like, if you can optimize that to the best of your ability, that's fantastic. Because if you're going to get 10 calls booked in a month, let's say your show up rate like sucks, like really sucks, and it's 1 out of 10, it's 10%, right? And you spend $1,000 to get those 10 calls. It's $100 a book call. It's $1,000 per showed up qualified booked call. But then you close that guy. That's $1,000 to acquire the customer. So who really cares? So that's why that metric at the end of the day is the most important one. But all the metrics before that metric, leading up to that metric, are also very important. And the most important one, I would argue, is the show up rate of your calls. As I said earlier in the video, if you double your show up rate, you're going to double your business. If you increase your show up rate by 20%, you're going to increase your business by 20%, assuming that the close rate and the qualified rate stays the same, right? Under that assumption. So definitely qualify heavier. Because also what it will do is, if someone needs to, this is pretty obvious if you're even somewhat good at marketing, but if you have more questions being asked on your form or your Calendly page, whatever you use, that person is clearly more bought in. It also makes a difference if they have to go through more steps. So maybe you are requiring people to watch a video before they can actually book a call. Maybe you are requiring people to watch a video before they actually submit a form. Maybe you're requiring people to submit a 10-question form before they book a call. Whatever it is, if you give them more steps, that is also more qualification. Qualifying heavier does not just mean asking them more questions. It means making them do more to actually get to booking a call. Because anyone who's going to do a lot is more likely to buy. The person who, or I'm sorry, more likely to show up, but also buy, probably. The person who is willing to take more steps in order to book a call is always going to have a higher show up rate than the person who is willing, than anyone who is willing to take less steps in order to book a call and show up. So qualify heavier, that's been one that we've implemented that has really, really helped. Just as an example for you too, we were running ads. We started running ads back in March, so about 3 months ago or 4 months ago. Cost per lead was $25. We were getting hammered with calls. We were putting in $100 a day ad spend. Cost per lead was $25. We were booking in half of them. 2 calls a day being booked. You do the math, 30 days a month. That's 60 calls a month we were getting. Okay. We got 2 customers out of that. 2. Next month, we added 3 questions onto the form. We booked 25 calls, and we ended up closing 5 customers. Okay. Now, the reason I say that I bring that up is because we took less calls and we had more cash collected. Our cost to acquire a customer went down. Our show up rate was higher. The sales team's morale was higher. Everything was better. Everything. Because we just qualified people. So you want to make sure that you're qualifying them. I wouldn't really change anything if your show up rate is good enough. What I mean by good enough, by the way, is the KPI for this is 75%. You want to have at least a KPI or a show up rate of 75%. But yeah, that is how we have increased our show up rate. These are five things that we've implemented to do that. I could go on for hours. There's way more than this, but I did want to just concise it into this video. Now, if you are a business and you're looking for help with your lead gen, your marketing, maybe you're running meta ads, Google ads, SEO, you need a new website, go to chgrowthpartner.com, book a call with one of our advisors. We will be more than happy to walk you through that process of what working together looks like. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much.